Hey everyone, listen to this headline out of CBC News under the politics section. Of course, right? I don't know, politics, you might as well just say propaganda. Because you know politics, you know what that entails. And if you don't, hey, there's online dictionaries, check it out. It's basically political speech is what politics is all about. It's not anything based or established in anything scientific or objective, right? It's basically establishing a narrative. And some of us out here are willing and capable and able to break through these kind of narratives. Headline, Justin Trudeau is losing the argument on border crossings, polls suggest. Polls. Now, once again, I'm not going to place any weight or value on these polls, although it is at least showing, even with the kind of sampling I'm sure they put on, the countervailing or the counter narrative is so overwhelming that these pollsters, once again, are at least showing that it's conducive with what I've been talking about. Canadians are not accepting. Listen, the political pundits and the media personalities and these politicians, these leftists, these collectivists, they've been putting forth the narrative, and Justin's been right there cheerleading. He's like at front and center, right? Cheerleading about, oh, Canadians, we're all so diverse, and we just love diversity. Although in reality, think about what they mean diversity. In reality, when they say diversity, what they really mean is they think diversity represents people of different skin color, but they all have to think the same. No, real diversity is actually having different opinions, different ideologies, different religions, different concept in what freedom even entails. That's diversity. And really, do you want that? Right? Think about it. If you had once again, I love breaking it down to the family setting. Now, you can have all kinds of different areas in regards as far as preferences, but in a household, which is basically just a shrunken down concept in regards to a society, can you truly have countervailing ideologies when you're talking about politics, right? Because what is politics? A representation, government is a representation of a monopoly on violence and force. That's what it is. Look it up. Once again, folks, dictionaries are out there. Not too hard to find the information that you need. Politics and government is all about using force as a means to an end. So can you really have counter ideologies? Well, yeah, if you want to create civil wars and conflicts, I suppose. Or just have the people, one day, perfect example, like let's think of Western Christian values or, maybe some of the Islamic values. Is female genital mutilation? Should we allow that as a countervailing opinion in regards to such as, let's say, libertarianism that suggests that you're not to use preemptive force or violence against other people that are, have no pretense, especially babies, to defend themselves? No, I don't believe so. I don't think you should have any concept or belief that your religion or your ideology should be accepted in what we call Western so-called democracies. The post-Enlightenment era values and principles are supposed to be a means to, okay, we don't have to listen to religion anymore. We can use universally ethical morals and principles as a guide, as a cornerstone for our morality, for how we deal with each other. So how can you have countervailing ideologies when you're talking about politics? No, that just doesn't work, does it? Which is why, whether you're talking about the U.S. or Canada, yeah, you can have the conservatives, the liberals, or the New Democrats in Canada, or you could have the Republicans or the Democrats in the U.S., but in reality, they all believe in, they're supposed to, Western values. That is literally the representation of their Constitution, just like here in Canada. So you can't have countervailing cultures that are trying to change, just like you couldn't have, if you raised your kids and you wanted to be, do the peaceful parenting thing, you wanted to teach them to be competent, respectful of others, well, would it be okay if you had a couple kids that could vote democratically to rule or override your peaceful existence and make it so that they can use violence towards other people? No, that wouldn't work out very well at all, would it? No, of course it wouldn't. So all this shit about diversity, it's all crap. It's all political posturing for these hacks, these morons, to bring in more tax serfs or slaves or dependents on the ruling class. Because that's another thing we always got to keep in mind. There's 4.1 million Canadians that work for the government in some capacity. You don't think their jobs don't require having something to do? Right? Of course it does. And if you don't, if you don't have something for them to do, well, they'd have to be fired or laid off. And what they're doing at this point in time is, oh, bring in whatever it's the legal migrants, welfare, minimum income, whatever they're doing with all this intervention into social economic policies. It's all about maintaining the structure of governance, of central planning, of keeping these bureaucrats, of keeping these authoritarians in power and getting a paycheck. That's what it's all about. But once again, even the media, even those media have to report, you put on a poll, well, you better be willing to accept what it comes out with. And apparently even the poll is counter to what the political narrative that these Trudeau liberals and CBC with that $1 billion budget, that must really piss you fuckers off. All that money you're spending to propagandize the Canadian people, and they're still going against you. That's telling you that you just, hey, once again, you're not doing a very good job, or it's that the Canadian people aren't as stupid as you wish they were. More Canadians trust Conservative leader Andrew Scheer than Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on border crossing. Now, I'll say, well, when it comes to that particular file, even I would suggest, well, yeah, but I mean, that's just once again picking lesser of evils. But of course the Canadians, yes, I mean, all they suggested, especially if you watch some of Michelle Rempel's videos, she's an MP for the Conservative Party of Canada, but basically saying, listen, it's actually fairly simple fix here, is make the entire border of Canada an actual legitimate border, so there's no loopholes anymore where these people can cross the border illegally at non-ports of entry. Just make the entire. But I've heard counter that from these leftists, these dipshits, and this Bill Blair, this new piece of crap that the Trudeau liberals have put in charge of this file. The same guy that fucked everyone over and threw them in jail for smoking pot, that's now in charge of the pot file, of legalizing it. This fucking hypocrite. Now he's the one in fucking charge with the illegal asylum seeker file, and he's out there saying that, oh, we got to honor all these external agreements, and we have to honor what like the UN says. Really? No, that's kind of the whole point. You fuckers are all talking about you're Canadian, right? Are you Canadian, Bill Blair? Well, then that means you live in a country. That means we follow our own supposed domestic rules and laws. So what the fuck do I care what some piece of shit say in the United Nations Council that are in countries that are actually loving getting rid of some of the bad fuckers that are coming to our own countries? They're more than happy. And here's another thing I want to bring up too. If you keep bringing, well, that's the thing. If you even want to believe the political rhetoric that they espouse, that what, these are the good people. Oh, they're good people, so we should bring them to Canada because they're productive and they'll create businesses. Well, don't you think they would be better suited doing that in their own countries? Or is it that you hate those people? What, do you hate Nigeria? Do you hate Somalia? Do the lefties? That's the question that keeps coming to my mind. Why in the fuck do you want to bring them all to Canada? We're actually quite developed. So we don't really need them, do we? But I'm pretty sure Nigeria, pretty sure Somalia, pretty sure Libya, pretty sure a lot of those countries in the Middle East could really fucking use some really good people that are supposedly so innovative, so creative, so entrepreneurial. Why you want to bring them to Canada? What? To pump up our already fucked up, retarded, overinflated, unicorn type economy that's all still relying on central planning and print money anyways. But what? Why wouldn't you want them? If you want to help people, help them in their own situation. But no, once again, no, it's like I say, it's all political rhetoric, folks. And they're losing the information war. That's a fact. And it actually, I'll kind of give myself a little bit of a pat in the back for that one, because I'm definitely one of the people out here in Canada that's talking about this stuff and getting and spiking the Canadians' interest as far as what the hell, what's all this all about? Why is it that now, in the last couple of years, they're looking to prop up the economy with these influx of asylum seekers? Well, once again, it's about maintaining the public sector, folks. Maintaining the public sector. It's not going to help you if you're just a private citizen of Canada. Having illegals come to your country to compete for your jobs, to compete for housing, to compete, because, think about it. If you come from a place that your income is like 1/10 of what you're used to in Canada, they'll accept a job at a much lower rate than you will. Of course they will. But that's because they can send that money back to their domestic country. Let's say they send it back to Somalia. It might be worth a fucking, a buttload of money. $1,000 in Somalia and whatever shit money they have is probably a whole lot of money. But in Canada, it's if they had to stay and spend it domestically, well, they'd realize real quick, it's not such a great benefit after all, is it? A new poll suggests Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberals are losing the political debate over the issue of asylum seekers crossing the border. A majority of Canadians polled by the Angus Reid Institute say that the number of asylum seekers crossing into the country is too high. First of all, if they're illegal, one, okay, is too high. I mean, illegal, folks. Have you ever broke the law? Right? And have you ever been caught breaking the law in Canada? Because that's really what it comes down to. If you were caught breaking the law in Canada, if you're a citizen of Canada, you are punished accordingly, right? But apparently you can be a foreigner from a foreign country and break the laws of this land before you've even barely landed in here. Actually, your whole, just getting to Canada was already breaking the law. And we're supposed to love and respect these people when their very first thing they ever did as they're introduced to Canada is to break our domestic laws. Is that really good premise? Is that really good concept? Don't you think that might be kind of a bad situation, a bad scenario to start setting up? And then to force the Canadian tax people not just compete with them, but to subsidize them as well, because that's the flip side of it. Not only are you going to compete with them, but you're going to be forced to pay for your competition. How you like those apples? Well, actually, not you particularly. No. Trust me, you're already so heavily taxed. The government's not going to raise your tax enough for you to pay for these people. Well, because if they did, you wouldn't get a paycheck. It'd all go to the government. And, that's not going to work out too well. Just look to Venezuela if you want to learn what socialism, how the latest iteration of that kind of shit works, that particular ideology. So in reality, what it is going to be your kids, your grandkids. Hey, maybe if they got enough debt loads by that point, maybe it'll be your great-grandkids are going to be forced to pay for this shit. And that's about as immoral as it comes, folks. While a plurality point to conservative leader Andrew Scheer as the best major party leader to handle the issue, the survey comes as the federal Conservatives and provincial governments put pressure on the Liberals to take control of what they've called a crisis. A sentiment that the polls suggest is also shared by a majority of respondents. And think about it. These are people that are even willing to take polls, which usually the media hacks and these pollsters rely on the fact that, hey, we just got to do the right kind of sampling. We just got to ask the right questions, and we'll get the kind of results we want. But even with all that setup, even with all that paradigm, with all that construct where they can try to narrow the scope of people's views, they're still getting massive pushback. The Canadian people are saying, nope, no. Canadians are, pretty decent people, I'll admit. Well, some are. I don't like that collective thing where, oh yeah, all Canadians. No, there's some fucking Canadians that are really shitty people, and there's some good Canadians, and everywhere in between, right? But all those people and everywhere in between, the ones that have chosen to take polls are saying, no, this is bullshit. We can't allow a mass influx of illegals into our country. It's just not a good idea. And if you want to know, want to get a little quasi bit of evidence in why that's probably a bad idea, hey, just look to Europe. Just look to Europe and what's going on in that place. Bad idea, bad precedent, and really bad for you as the domestic Canadian population. The poll, which was conducted between July 25th to 30th based on interviews with 1,500 members of the Angus Reid Forum, an online panel. So it's members of the Angus Reid Forum, like an online panel. So like I say, and even they're saying that, no, Justin, no, sorry, you bleeding heart piece of shit. No, we don't fall for your political rhetoric. No, you can't suggest that stealing and forcing from the Canadian people and forcing them to subsidize these illegals, that's a good idea. See, that doesn't even work for them. Even for these kind of people, this message, this narrative doesn't work. So what does that tell you? Well, just go out and talk to a Canadian. Well, here's an idea. Now, it'll be completely anecdotal and subjective based on your own personal experiences, but just go out and talk to a bunch of Canadians and ask them, what do you think about the illegal border crossings? And I guarantee, you'll hear that, no, Canadians don't like this. And stop pretending. That's another thing with the media. Stop pretending that Canadians, all you're doing is pissing Canadians off because you're completely misrepresenting their views. Canadians, yes, a lot of them can be very nice, but don't misrepresent them. Don't fuck them. Don't try to completely manipulate what they truly believe, because you'll get the pushback then. I guess that's kind of a little bit part of me, where I guess that's my Canadian heritage in some way. But now you can push me a long ways, but once you get to a certain point, watch the fuck out. If you push too far, watch out, because I'll bite back. I'll bark a few times first, though, just to let you know. Suggests that the border issue is resonating with Canadians. Fully 70% of respondents to the poll said they were either following it in the news and discussing it with friends and family, or seeing some media coverage and having the odd conversation. But despite the high level of interest, only 22% of respondents were able to correctly identify the number of people crossing the border illegally since 2017. About half the respondents thought the numbers was over 50,000 when it was actually closer to 30,000. Oh, I actually heard the media talking about this on CBC radio actually the other day, and it's funny because that's brought up in here because even when they try to make it, it's because the numbers were different. It's only between 50 and 30,000. So, oh, even if the Canadians were predisposed to believing the numbers were wrong, even when they corrected the numbers, the Canadians still felt the same way. So, you know, once again, nice try with this political propaganda, but once again, thankfully, I'm helping clear up the misconceptions that these political propagandists are trying to put forth. You're welcome. Those who overestimate the rate of border crossing were also more likely to consider the situation a crisis than those who either underestimated the numbers or gave the correct figure. Nevertheless, once informed about the actual numbers of crossings, here we go. So we're actually going to get to it. So they're actually going to report on this. So listen up, folks. Nevertheless, once informed about the actual number of crossings, 65% of those polled still said they felt that it was too many people for Canada to handle, with only 29% stating that it's a manageable number of people, just 6% that they felt Canada could handle more border. So once again, even with the correction of that, 65%, a full 2/3 of Canadians are still saying, no. No. And you know what? Hopefully, and this is one of the files, and I'm sure there's a couple other ones in regards to the economy and some of the social policies that will hopefully, and listen, I'm not a promoter of Scheer and his Conservatives. I think the guy's the biggest wimp. I mean, really, this is not a leader. I even hate using the term leader. A leader means that a leader should be someone that people want to follow. No, Scheer. You know how they get people to follow them? They use the political whip, as they call it, or I'm going to sign your paycheck. Well, if you got to force people to follow you, really, not much of a leader. That kind of makes you a ruler, not really a leader. And as we've seen, anyone that has a counter opinion, like people like Maxime Bernier, Scheer throws under the bus or completely out of the caucus. So once again, top-down authoritarianism is the rule of the day, whether it's from the left or the right. People who voted for, but hey, actually, before I finish this, actually, you know what? I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video. Yeah, it is, I guess it's just pointing out more numbers and people's opinions. But in reality, it's just polling numbers. I'm sure it's stuff that you probably don't care to read a whole lot about. But if you do, once again, the link's in the description of the video. But in reality, even myself, and I'm telling you, I don't vote. I don't believe in picking rulers. Yeah, sorry. I know a lot of people are there, well, you're going to vote. If you don't vote, you got nothing to say. No, in reality, if you vote for a ruler, you're the one that's responsible for me having to deal with your fucking ruler's bullshit, their political edict. So, no, I'm off the hook, and my conscience and my morality is clear because, yeah, I don't try to impose my ideas or ideology or preferences or opinions on you through the political means, which is what politics is all about. But you know what? Come 2019, if you got to do the lesser of evils, personally, I would suggest that fuck the lesser of evils. If Canadians were at least smart enough, or at least ambitious enough, or courageous enough, and brave enough, no, vote for like Tim Moen and the Libertarian Party of Canada. That will actually send a true message and chill through the establishment that would be profound. But I know most people are like, no, they're still going to pick their lesser of evils. Hey, I recognize, I'm pragmatic. The reality's going to play in 2019. But at the very least, I'm not suggesting that the Conservatives are a better option, but Liberals got to go. Trudeau's got to go. Bill Blair has got to go. All these leftist collectivists that want to completely destroy the very fabric of Canada, the very fabric of this society, they have got to go. So if you got to plug your nose and vote for Scheer, the loser, the supply management crony, like whatever, just do it, folks. Just do it, and then get rid of them after. All right? I don't know. Like I say, it's up to you. Like I say, I don't delve into that part. I'll give you information. I'll help educate and inform as many people. But, yeah, I don't play those games. I've given up playing those games. I played them a couple times in my life, and I realized it was completely fruitless endeavor, picking a master, picking a ruler. It's like being a slave, right? It's like living on the plantation. Like there's 3 different masters you can have. You can have this master, or this master. A slave, really what a slave should do if they had any self-respect and self-esteem, would say, no, I don't want no masters. But hey, if you're stuck on the plantation, you're not planning on leaving anytime, you're going to have a master. That's just a reality. So I think mixing them up, switching them up is a whole lot better than giving them, power corrupts. And the more time people have in power, the more corrupt they will be. So switch things up in 2019, Canada, at the very least. You know, get rid of these globalists, these leftist collectivists, these Trudeau liberals. Show them that, yeah, you're getting one term, buddy, and that should show you. Oh, you used your daddy's last name for all this shit, and you had the media propping you up, and you still couldn't maintain having 2 terms because you're that much of a loser. At least send him that message. At least make that something that he's got to remember for all of his life. G'day, Libertarian, and I love liberty.